Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gate, and welcome to Europa Universalis 4 Anbennar conversion mod. This is an interesting one. You may be familiar with Europa Universalis 4, or you may not. It is a historical grand strategy game. Normally, it takes place in the real world, starting in the year 1444, and you can select any country that exists in that time. However, tonight we're going to be playing with the Anbennar conversion mod, which creates its own fantasy world. Honestly, mods like this amaze me. An incredible amount of work had to go into creating this. Now, the default area, or, the area that they start you off in, is over here to the west in this area that feels vaguely analogous to Europe. Obviously, it's not shaped like Europe, but it even goes so far as to have a large portion of it mimic the Holy Roman Empire, in that a lot of these countries are actually bound together in a sort of pseudo empire that's more of a defensive alliance, and it borrows EU4's mechanics for that. However, today I will be playing in another part of the world as the nations over here are centaurs, and that has piqued my curiosity. Partially because I've always thought centaurs were kind of fun, just as a concept. Kind of a cool idea, these horsemen, strong and fast and very dangerous. And they are, as far as I can tell, using the mechanics EU4 built for horde nations, such as the Mongols. Not that the Mongols existed in 1444, but a lot of nations that came from the Mongols still remain, and imitate their culture or inherited their culture in a lot of ways. Although, personally, it raises questions in my mind of how this could possibly work as a core horde mechanic, is that you take land from your neighbors and then raise it in order to maintain your horde unity. However, raising land involves taking the development and destroying it. But all of our neighbors have a development of 3, which is the minimum. You've got 3 categories of development. Therefore, a 3 development represents a 1 in each category. Now, these are the nations that it recommends for the region, and it's fairly short on detail on exactly what the difference is between them. Instead, all we have is this little blurb down at the bottom. The open plains promise freedom to whoever is strong enough to take it. and the hordes of the centaurs have proven mighty indeed. Lead these proud people and unite the clans into a vast horde and seize the entire plains. But beware, the mountain hills and forests hold within them dangerous threats. The ogre nations slumber for now, but is it finally time for a new age of the giants? So yes, a large part of what's made me curious about this region is that while over here the people are humans or elves, dwarves, orcs, goblins, very human-like creatures in the first place. Um, I would think that in order to represent centaurs and ogres in a way that in any way feels right, you would have to make greater mechanical changes. After all, one would think that an ogre army would consist of a much smaller number of ogres, which individually are much more powerful than a human soldier. Meanwhile, a major characteristic of EU4 normally is that you can compose your army out of infantry and cavalry, and later on cannons. And the notion of infantry and cavalry is not one that seems like it ought to apply to centaurs. So, as you can see up here, this the technology group is what determines species in this game. And these first four options are all centaurs, whereas these four I could play as ogres, and I probably will at some point, but for the moment, I'm more curious about centaurs. And with no real way to discern between them aside from their names, Moon Tracker, Doom Horde, Silvermane, 100 Hooves, I guess I'll just go with the first thing it recommends. Moon Tracker. Sounds dramatic. No real point in playing in Iron Man mode. It's not like I can earn achievements in modded EU4 anyway. Now, another thing that EU4 is infamous for is that it is a very complicated game. And I hope to play in a way that mitigates that somewhat. Uh, I love this game, and I would like to share my love of this game with others. And it seems to me that part of how I ought to do that is to present perhaps a simplified version of this game and simply ignore some of its mechanics. So if you are experienced or knowledgeable about this game, you may notice me not taking advantage of some things that I perhaps could be. I'm not going to pretend that that is entirely intentional every single time. Uh, I am also somewhat forgetful person, but to a degree, it is intentional. Now, I'm also a big sucker for stories, so let's see what they've got for us. The Forbidden Plains, the Centaur clans. Tens of thousands of centaurs swarmed across the city-states of the Triunic Lakes, watering the trampled crops with blood of their former caretakers. None were spared or given the slightest hint of mercy, and thus an entire generation was lost. A historic account of the Great Incursion by Ranu Matsu, 1511. Ah, so that's not something that's already happened, but something that we anticipate is going to happen. Since, as you can see right here, it is currently the year 1444. Hold on a moment. Let's make sure my face is... Yeah, let's move myself over just a little bit. I don't want to be blocking the map, but I also don't want to be blocking the gameplay. The centaurs of the Forbidden Plains are ancient creatures, originally being Fae. Well, hello, brothers and sisters. Having existed on Hallen before the start of recorded history, in fact, the centaurs today no longer live in their homeland, the deep woods of Ascan. I believe the deep woods are off to the west there, which used to stretch all the way to the great woods in Gawed, which I believe are even further west. It was Gaston Beastbane who mercilessly slaughtered most of the non-human races in Canor from 596 to 569 BA. Like the satyrs and gnolls, the centaurs almost went extinct in the Second Great Cleansing. Oh boy. Nothing like ethnic cleansing to brighten your day. Well, not really ethnic in this case, but species cleansing. Nonetheless, genocide. However, survivors managed to escape to the Forbidden Plains, where they remain today. Their homeland is no longer recognizable, the majority of the woods having been burnt down. Now, why would you want to do that? On the plains, centaurs have tried to establish a new homeland for themselves, pushing the humans who lived on the mainland to the lakes, where their descendants have formed the Triunic peoples. I believe the lakes are what we saw up to the north as I was making my selection. Recent history. The centaurs are typically a quarrelsome race, only having been united twice by great Canes? I suspect that's meant to be at least analogous to cons, just because of the real world analogy to Mongols and the like. During their history on the plains, both times the clans have refractured due to their defeat at the hands of the Triunic city-states. Ah, you see, in the real world, if I'm not mistaken, what caused the Mongol Empire to fall apart was simply internal things. Um, Multiple heirs of Genghis Khan not able to hold things together quite the same way. So, it would appear that part of the challenge here would be uniting the clans and rather than internal strife being what we have to fear, it's war, the lakes. Let's show them what for. The most recent and most devastating invasion was the Great Incursion, which began in 1433 and ended in 1440. So, 4 years ago, the centaurs took advantage of ancient Fey magic, use of centaur shamans, and the most frigid and harsh winter in Trionic history. Shamans locked ice bridges in place, allowing centaurs to swarm over the sea and attack the humans. However, the clever humans found out about the shamans and used any means necessary to slay them. Wow, that's unfortunate. In 1439, the last shaman was killed and the invasion slowly dissipated as the ice bridges melted, causing the remaining warriors to be slaughtered. Now you lead one of many centaur clans, dreaming to unify your people once more. However, the humans have signed a treaty of unity, joining together in the ambitious Lake Federation. O great Khan, you must crush these foolish dreams below the thunderous tremor of hundreds of thousands of hooves. Will you unite the clans and conquer once more? Or will your wars cause a third great cleansing? Or perhaps you will succeed, only to fall apart, as a war lasts a little too long. May your enemies tremble before you and lay dying in regret for their savage action in annihilating your kind. The storm shall never end. Well, it definitely seems like we are the aggressors in this conflict, having been cast out from the forests to the west by humans hoping to exterminate us, but now repeatedly making war against the humans to the north, who sound like they're relatively blameless. But if that's who we are in this game, that's who we are. Religion Moon Tracker is Ik Magthal. Gives the following modifiers. Yearly Horde Unity +1. I suppose that will help us a lot in holding together against that problem that I mentioned earlier. Cavalry Shock +0.25. Not a huge modifier, but more of a combat benefit than you normally see from religion alone. The centaur religion known as Ikmagthal came into being shortly after the surviving centaurs fled into the Forbidden Plains during the Second Great Cleansing, while retaining aspects of their original faith by a continued, though distant, relationship with the Fey courts. They now worship Igmagtal, a storm god. The religion reflects centaur beliefs and is believed to be the most major reason for their actions and diplomacy. That is, that everything must be consumed in a never-ending charge that is akin to a great storm. It is through this the centaurs can access the eternal plains. Ikmagtal. Okay, so is Ikmagtal the name of the religion, the god, and the plains? I suppose the eternal plains are probably some form of afterlife. An interesting fact about the religion is that centaurs do not use religious icons, instead using symbols and patterns that they draw on flat surfaces, such as a wave. Government. Your government is augmented by the estates of the realm. Well, that's one thing that I am keen to ignore a lot of the time. Have a minimal amount of interaction with. These can differ from country to country, but represent strong interest groups within your country that give you powerful benefits if they are loyal and influential. And and interactions with them tend to be on long cooldowns that they do a poor job of letting you know are up. So, no explanation about interaction with Horde Unity yet. Although, hovering over the mechanic right now, your Horde Unity changes by 0.24 every year. This is, in fact, the destructive mechanic that I was referring to earlier, in that in normal EU4, any Horde nation is going to be constantly losing Horde Unity, and you need to make it up by raising provinces. But it looks like, thanks to the combination of the Magthal religion, being a Centaur horde and Centaur administration, our horde unity is actually rising constantly. Although that's going to be mitigated slightly by total development. So as our empire becomes bigger, this might become a problem again. Environment, the Forbidden Plains. Forbidden Plains is a large region in North Hellas, largely consisting of vast stretches of desert and steppes, a desertification process caused by the Day of Ashen Skies, populated mainly by migrating hordes of centaurs. However, the northern region, centered around the Trionic Lakes, currently occupied by humans, contains plenty of arable and green land, enough to feed millions of people. Nations of fat-hide ogres live in the west, bordering the Dwarovar. I wonder if they named themselves fat-hide ogres. While the Serpent Spine largely isolates the Forbidden Plains from the rest of the world, there are several passes from the plain that lead to the outside world. The Northern Sea is also a viable opportunity to expand eastwards. Historically, both the Centaurs and the Trionic peoples have been divided into petty tribes and city-states respectively. Now, the Centaur tribes are attempting to reform into a united horde, with the Trionic Lakes attempting to unify into the Lake Federation. A tributary state is a special type that is most common in East Asia. A tributary relationship requires the overlord either belongs to the Eastern religion group or uses the horde government type. Okay, so looks like we can have tributaries being a horde government. So basically we can kind of have other countries under our thumb giving us stuff. And this likely comes with the expectation that we defend them a bit. The Overlord will protect their tributaries against attacks from non-tributary states in exchange for regular tribute payments. Ah, exactly what I just said. But apart from this, tributary states have their own independent diplomacy, as opposed to vassal states, which is also a mechanic in this game, where a vassal is more or less under your complete control. They can fight their own wars internally against other tributaries under the same overlord, or externally against outside powers. Okay. Well, while I'm not a fan of genocide, a lot of this game is all about aggression, going to war, conquering one another. And I'm not about to deny that. That's a big part of the fun. Even if we are playing the bad guys. That having been said, it seems like there might be a certain amount of expectation that we might want to exterminate the humans. Admittedly, that wasn't actually stated anywhere. I suspect we don't actually need to do that, though. And having humans inside our empire might come in handy. Do you want to deactivate the Great Conqueror feature? This system will periodically give bonuses to dynamically chosen AI countries to make them aggressive in order to create consolidated blocks throughout the world that potentially offer a mid to late game challenge. Now, admittedly, I don't know how long this playthrough is going to run. A little bit of past experience with this mod tells me that I might want to conquer the Great Plains and then leave it at that. That's what I did in an earlier playthrough in that forest off to the west. Uh, Also, in my experience with EU4 in general, I'm not sure I'm interested in attempting world conquest. That having been said, I do always love a challenge. Hmm, let them come, or I'm the pawn of chess whose aim is not to protect the king, but to become the conqueror. Gain 10 splendor. This option will enable mythical conquerors, a more extreme version of a great conquerors. Oh boy. Well, you can't just challenge me like that and expect me to turn it down. So it looks like if this playthrough does continue on into a later game, there will certainly be someone there to meet us and challenge us. All right, so here's our nation. As I explained earlier, there are three categories: base tax, base production, and base manpower, all of which are 1, so our total development is 3. We are a tiny nation. Um, each of these are tied to one of the types of monarch points: administrative, diplomatic, and military, respectively. And we can click these buttons in order to develop into a bigger, stronger nation without actually conquering anybody. Uh, and it seems how useful this actually is can be a bit of a complicated question, as these points are used for a lot of things. Most of all, the advancement of technology. And especially in the early game, getting behind on military technology can spell your doom. As you can see, we are currently at administrative technology, diplomatic technology, and military technology, 2 each. Oh, hello. Hello and welcome. Glad you could join me. So yes, we have admin, diplo, and military tech all at level 2. And one of the benefits of military tech 3 is land morale plus 0.5, which can make an enormous amount of difference in who actually wins fights. So if I go to war with someone who has military tech 3 and I do not, I am likely to be crushed, even if I have outdeveloped them. Now, these points have other uses, largely in random events and also in ideas, which is a mechanic that we are going to unlock later. Not something we need to worry about immediately. So, we do start out with a certain amount of army. This is a pretty typical thing in EU4. And I noticed that all of our army is cavalry. In fact, cavalry is the only thing we can build, And each unit of cavalry costs 12.5 ducats each, which, if I remember correctly, in normal EU4, cavalry costs considerably more than that. I believe it's 10 ducats for a normal infantry unit. So it seems that our cavalry is more analogous to infantry and perhaps a little bit stronger and a little bit more expensive, which seems like a reasonable way to represent centaurs. Our army force limit is 6 out of 6. I may actually want to surpass that, at least in the short term, just in order to be able to conquer somebody. Although it may be wiser to take advantage of alliances in order to accomplish that. Now it says we currently have too few rivals, and Cloudbane, this nation right here, has rivaled us. It only seems fair, and turns out it's actually our only option to rival them back. And their only rival at present is us, although it looks like they have a tribal feud with Thunderborn and Ruinbringer. So they have two other neighbors. It might behoove us to play nice with them, at least for now. Although, later on, our only means of expansion is likely going to be through Thunderborn on up through there. So, if we can ally ourselves with the Ruinbringers and maybe Warsight, that might be a good idea. That having been said, they're not interested in allying with us at the moment. Of course, this has the upside that likely no one's interested in allying with Cloudbane either. So, if I were to overbuild my force limit and go to war with them early, that might work out well for us. Now, another fun mechanic within EU4 is the mission trees, which, before we've even started, we have completed this build to force limit mission, which gives us, once we complete it, morale of armies and land maintenance modifier. Let's not click that until we're ready to go to war, though. It only lasts for 25 years. I'd like to take as much advantage of it as possible. We've got this mission, which is Substantial Horde. It appears that in order to complete that, we need one subject country. So perhaps what we want to do is vassalize or make them into a tributary. There are certainly benefits to that, rather than expanding our country. High income of at least 1.78 ducats, currently 1.19. I'm not worried about that too much. I'll ignore it for the moment and let us come to it naturally. And of course, once I do complete the build to force limit mission, I will unlock the Expand Moon Tracker mission. Not too worried about unlocking it, though, as the requirements to complete it is total development grown by at least 50. Now, our current development is 3. And taking other countries will increase that by 3. So that is miles off at the moment. Now, currently, we are losing money, but at a very slow rate, 0.39 per month when we have 247 in the bank. Not really something that seems worth worrying about. Migration is possible. This is a mechanic that we saw in normal EU4 in the New World, which is to say, the Americas. We can actually, in theory, migrate to one of these neighboring provinces. I actually must confess, I'm not sure what the benefit of that would be. It would change who our neighbors are. More centaurs down here to the south. And this is certainly an interesting spot down here. But right now we have more neighbors up here where we are. And I kind of want to keep it that way. After all, if we have neighbors, we could conquer them. So, if we were to declare war right now, we could take advantage of the tribal feud casus belli that was brought to our attention in earlier investigation. And if we were to do that, we would be able to conquer them. What cause you use to go to war can determine what you can do with the peace deal. For example, forced migration. We could, I presume, force them to migrate to one of these other places. Don't know why we would want to necessarily, although if we were to move them here, we could then go through them not only to the north, but also to take them. Doesn't seem like something we need to make a priority. We could also use Monstrous Conquest. Which also gives us the option to conquer. Centaur Subjugation. That plays into our mission tree. We could subjugate them. And as you can see, there are also small modifiers to various factors. If we were to go with this tribal feud, casus belli, we could conquer them. And when you conquer someone, either making their nation a part of your own or turning them into vassals, you get a bit of aggressive expansion, which angers everyone else in the area, or at least makes them nervous. And if you do that too much, they can start to form a coalition against you. So, allies or no, they can unify against you and make war on the basis of that. So that's something that we basically always have to be careful about, although aggressive expansion is based largely on total development, which, as we've established, is 3 for basically everyone. I'm not sure how much we actually have to be afraid of that. It's possible that we can go on fully aggressive warpath for quite some time without having to worry about that at all. I think I want to try to conquer Cloudbane, make them a part of the Moon Tracker nation. Just to expand our borders a little bit, we can worry about subjugating other centaurs later. Now, currently, I have 6,000 centaurs in my army, and they have 6,000 centaurs in theirs. That doesn't sound like a way to win wars. Now, we also have no leader, which easily enough fixed. Oh, not bad at all for an early game general. That'll make us a bit more powerful. But they're probably going to hire a general as well, and they might get just as lucky. So I'm going to engage in a bit of a cheap tactic and build our army bigger than our force limit. After all, we've got a lot of money to burn through, a surprising amount of money. Let's build up to an army of 9,000. What, 9,000? There's no way that can be right. Ah, we've gained the humiliate rival casus belli because we declared them our rivals. Ruinbringer declared war on Cloudbane. Uh-oh. They may have beaten us to it. Also, there is the speed of the game up here in the top right. Currently, we are moving at speed 1, which, as you may have noticed after I paused and unpaused for a few seconds, has taken us all of a day. Cloudbane has accepted an offer to hire horde of Terry-Nados from Thunderborn. Oh. Well, this is another mechanic, where you can offer your army as sort of a kind of mercenaries through offer condottieri. Seems that Thunderborn offered their army as condottieri to Cloudbane. So now we are looking at 12,000 against probably 6,000. Well, that's a little bit scary, in that easily could have been us. So let's see if this didn't backfire entirely on Ruinbringer. And let's kick up the speed a little bit to speed 3. Ah, and now we've had a demonstration of that migration. I guess the Burning Hooves wanted to have neighbors. That having been said, nobody's moving that I can see. Ah, there they go. Actually makes me very nervous. If I were to go to war, would the same thing simply happen to me? Ah, looks like it could offer alliance to Ruinbringer. For what it's worth, as they are likely about to get their butts kicked. Oh, centaurs shall never ally other centaurs. There is no equal on the plane, only Khan. Well, I spoke of simplifying the mechanics. It simplifies things quite a lot if we simply cannot ally with one another. Also, someone is attacking this province. So Thunderborn rented out their army to Cloudbane, and Golden Tremor declared war on them. Seems like if anybody's screwed, it is now Thunderborn. Although Runebringer is also in a terrible position. There are 10,000 cavalry here, and only 6,000 here. Makes me wonder what's happened to the Condottieri army, though there is something I can do to find out, which is open the ledger. Looking for the armies of Thunderborn, Cloud... Well, no, there's a simpler way. Simply looking here. Okay, they've got 8,000 troops. They have 6,000, they have 6,000. They have 10,000. Which sounds to me like they started with 10,000, which is a bit frightening. Really makes me wonder where each army is positioned, because 6,000 troops are sieging here, but we know that came from Cloudbane. Well, okay. I admit I will be a bit of a chicken here. This is very unfamiliar territory for me. I'm going to save. But I do want to see if I can take advantage. Oh boy, I'm nervous. There's a good chance that this backfires against me horribly. After all, Cloudbane does still have the Condottieri, even if they're not getting much advantage out of them. Ah, and there they are. As I anticipated, they did get a general of their own, but their general skill, well, it's mostly in the combat itself, whereas mine is more diverse. Those first two factors are fire and shock, which apply when the armies are actually fighting. The third is maneuver, which improves various things, as one might expect. The fourth factor is siege. I've got 1 pip of siege on my general. They have none. Which could mean that my siege will complete faster, although that is far from guaranteed. Although I'm already ahead of them. As we can see, my progress is minus 28%, theirs is minus 35%, which is to say that there is no chance at all that the fort will fall to me this cycle. You can see a little green bar creeping up there, and then it rolls some dice, and the possible results are shown here. And their siege is going fairly poorly. In fact, the siege that's going best is this one over here, which, if Thunderborn falls, that also works to my favor. Means that I will no longer have anything to fear from this massive army. Ah, Defender's Desert. In principle, I have a 21% chance of taking the fort this time, but in my experience, that basically never happens. Instead, it's not until the siege modifiers have been maxed out at, I believe, 12. See that green 10 in parentheses right there? Ah, also here. Yes, in my experience, the only the AI really gets to take advantage. But, as we can see, my siege completed first. Honestly, that was mostly luck on my part. It's a little surprising that this one didn't finish first. But not surprising that I outpaced this one, which is much to my relief because, well, you know, as stated earlier, that was a bit nerve-wracking just having this army sitting there. They could have moved in at any time, but I guess they decided they would rather commit. That having been said, I did state earlier that I wanted to actually conquer the war site and make them mine. But that was under the understanding that they were my only path of expansion. But now they're not. Now I have another neighbor. Or Cloudbane, rather. Now I have another neighbor. So let's sue for peace. And what I could do is just click that right there, and their country becomes my country. And my borders would expand up there. Instead, what I might want to do is make them my vassal. The benefits of this nation continues to exist. And the thing about tiny nations like this is, force limit. I believe the best place to show you is here. Force limit is based on a nation's size, but we are all absolutely tiny nations. Exceeding your force limit makes maintaining the army all the more expensive. You can see army maintenance right here. I've got... It's... By making my army 9 instead of 6, my army maintenance has gone to double. Horribly expensive. But if I were to make them my vassal, I would continue to have a force limit of 6, and they would continue to have a force limit of 6. So, we would have the combined might of, well, what you already see here. Whereas, if I were to conquer it, I would get noticeably more income to support my army with, but my force limit would probably remain at 6. So, as if you're following me, you might see that vassalizing them will get me a much more powerful army. Although that army is not likely to help me, at least at first, as, well, they will be very unhappy with me, and, well, that is a factor. Diplomacy handles a lot of things in this game in ways that are often pretty intuitive. You conquer someone, you make them your vassal, they are under your thumb, And, people tend to not like that. That having been said, we can send diplomats to smooth things over, and, eventually they will fight for us just as our own army. Now, I can also take a little bit of money, but we're talking about very, very little, so honestly, it kind of doesn't even seem worth it. So let's send this demand and make them our own. Make them our vassals. Ah, that's a factor in vassalization that I forgot about because I haven't bothered interacting with it in quite some time. Since I vassalized them, their war became my war. So this war is actually going to continue. So what I'm going to do is kick most of this army out of the army and send this single regiment over here with my general, making this go a lot faster with the benefit of my siege pip. Meanwhile, let's get started on the business of making them a little more happy with me. Although it's not too bad at the moment. They have very high liberty desire, which is the #1 factor in determining if they want to fight for me or not. As you can see, they may turn rebellious if their liberty desire is over 50%, and it is presently 96%. And while it is possible to improve relations, you can only send a given nation a diplomat once a month. So that's going to have to wait until the 13th of Bloomsend. And as you can see, the siege is going a little better already. Another thing having a vassal does is some of their force limit is added to yours. So now, instead of 9 out of 6, we are at 9 out of 7, which, as you can see, has dropped the maintenance cost noticeably. Of course, we are still losing about 2.5 ducats a month, but I want to hang on to that and utilize our oversized army against someone else. Now, as you can see, this nation is now occupied by us. And honestly, I kind of want to vassalize them too, for all of the reasons I mentioned earlier. Of course, this puts us in the slightly scary position that we have vassals with forces that outnumber ours. But it is what it is. We'll have to develop past it as we go. You know what? Actually, now that I say that out loud, oh, and for some reason I was offering to become their vassal, that, please disregard. Now, I can't actually take them. It probably has to do with the casus belli. Yes, I'm pretty sure that under normal circumstances, the fact that I don't actually share a border with them is okay. I can actually conquer land across vassals. Um, I think what's happening here is that they just didn't use a casus belli that allows for making their nation part of mine. I'm tempted to use the subjugation casus belli just because it is a new mechanic, something that I am entirely unfamiliar with. Moon Tracker will subjugate Ruinbringer, making them a horde under their command. Like, is this a form of vassalization, or is this the... Does this make them a tributary state? Honestly, given the risks involved in having vassals that can theoretically overpower me, I'm tempted to do this and find out. Okay, let's look at diplomacy from the perspective of our own nation. We have the following subjugated horde, Ruinbringer, and the following vassal, Cloudbane. So these are clearly being treated as two different things, but it's using the same symbol. It doesn't make them a tributary state. It does, at least it's not what it looks like. Let's look at the possibility of declaring war on war sites. Alright, I would be able to call both Ruinbringer and Cloudbane in, which if Ruinbringer were a tributary state, I'm pretty sure would not be the case. And now that's interesting. Ruinbringer's Liberty Desire is actually pretty low. Low enough that I would expect them to join into any war I engage in now. I suspect that vassalizing Cloudbane might have actually been entirely a mistake, and I should have just taken advantage of the new mechanic. Honestly, it's tempting to backpedal, load that save, and redo the war. But now my curiosity is piqued. Now that I have both a vassal and a subjugated horde, I'm kind of interested in going to war and seeing how they behave. Like, let's just keep going and see how this plays out. Now I need new rivals, and it seems that Warsight has already taken liberty of rivaling me. Rivaling has many effects. If you don't have an... Largely it relates to this mechanic right here, power projection, which has various helpful little effects until you can get it at least up to 50. If you can get it up to 50, it gives an additional admin, diplo, and military PowerPoint per month, which is honestly kind of huge. And if you don't have enough rivals, this ticks down slowly. Having rivals boosts this a little bit, and making war with your rivals can boost it quite a bit. As you can see, my interactions with Cloudbane have given me an extra 11. Which falls well short of the 50 needed for the large benefit. You can also have a second rival, Golden Tremor, which, honestly, all I can think about that is, why not? And as you can see, that makes it so that my longtime rivals bonus will go up faster. It was +1 yearly before, and it's +2 yearly now. Goodness, my neighbors are... Well, not just my neighbors, my new subjects are migrating. I was questioning earlier what I might want to migrate for. Um, and feels almost like they might be providing me with an answer there. I might need to just to maintain borders with somebody. But that was interesting. I just noticed we are now at an army force limit of 9 out of 10, which, looking at the military tab right here, we can go for an explanation for. Cloudbane gives us 1.3. Runebringer gives us 3. Very much makes me wonder why. What's different here? It could be part of the subjugated horde factor, but it also raised my curiosity looking at them earlier that it seemed as though Runebringer might have actually started with a larger army than the rest of us. And in fact, even now, Cloudbane appears to have no army at all, whereas Runebringer has an army size of 5. In any case, that's very convenient for me, though I don't understand it, and I wish I did. That means that that extra cost I was facing for being over my army maintenance, the additional maintenance cost for being over my limit has now vanished completely. And I may actually want to build slightly larger. Although that feels a bit unnecessary now. Like, there is some chance that when I go to war with Warsight, they will also hire Condottieri. But I have a subject which appears to be willing to have my back. So even if they do hire Condottieri, it seems likely I will still outnumber them. Now, conquest is no longer something I'm really wanting. There is a limit to the number of diplomatic relations one can have, but it appears that having a subject, having subjugated another horde doesn't even count against that. The subjugated horde mechanic just seems incredibly convenient and to my benefit. So, honestly, the thing to do now appears to be to pursue that aggressively as possible. So I'm going to take the Centaur subjugation casus belli. Seems to be that this is just a thing centaurs do to one another. Now, it's worth noting, you see here, this is the war goal. It would be, if I were to use Tribal Feud, the war goal would be to take Taizam, which is, conquering it, as we did before. Whereas with the Centaur subjugation casus belli, the war goal would be to show superiority, which means kicking their butts in fights. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that matters. Conquering this province will still most likely give us a 100% war score, but it does weight things a little differently. going after their army might cause things to go a little more quickly. But a lot of things just don't matter on this scale, with every nation being a single province. Still, I'm going to go for the Centaur subjugation casus belli because that's what sets us up for the Centaur subjugation, which went so well when we did it to the Ruinbringers. It's also worth noting that we still have the Thunderborn army still apparently working for us. Presumably the Cloudbane still have them hired as condottieri, and thus they may help us out with this war as well. So yes, vassalizing the Cloudbane might have accidentally been the best thing that could have happened to us. Okay, this is a thing that can happen in this game. When a fight is going on, you will slowly kill off one another's units, but you will also slowly reduce one another's morale. And you can retreat from combat, but there's a space of a few days where you can't retreat from combat. So if one army runs out of morale, it will be destroyed completely. And that's what just happened here. Ah, and our general gained a trait born into the saddle. Bit funny to think of a centaur being born to the saddle, but it's just a trait carried over from the base game. Gives us cavalry flanking ability, plus 50%. Flanking mechanics is something I would have to explain while a battle is going on, but in essence that means that if I outnumber my enemy, there's a limit to how much I can take advantage of that all at once, and that limit just increased. We have gained the monstrous conquest casus belli against burning hooves. Do as monsters do. Ah, that explains a lot about the mechanics of how this plays out. We are monsters. Literally speaking, in the eyes of the game, we are monsters. And are expected to act like it. Of course, we no longer have the build to force limit mission to complete. That's a little bit unfortunate. I neglected it. Could have taken advantage. It's not the end of the world. On the other hand, since we did subjugate a horde, we can now complete this mission, which gives us little benefits. 1,000 manpower, which this is what's used to resupply these when they die. It goes up slowly over time on its own, but as you can see at the moment, it's dropping as some of those numbers are filtering back into the army. So, 1,000 bonus manpower, nothing to sneeze at. And also, for 50 years, my army gets 10% cheaper, and national supply limit modifier, plus 100%. That means that, well, supply limit here is actually 32 right now. If I were to go over here, the supply limit would be 19. So if I were to bring an army with more than 19 regiments, beating them might become a bit difficult. Let's pause the game here. This would alleviate that, but I'm sure you've noticed we're not really close to having horde size of 19 yet. Still, this lasts for 50 years. I see no reason not to click it right now. And this is the pop-up just telling us that we gained that benefit. And next up is a sizable horde. It's interesting that one of the requirements is own less than 2 cities. If I had actually conquered one of the other nations earlier, made them simply another part of Moontracker, I would have ruined this for myself. It appears that the game very much doesn't want me to actually take land. I'm just supposed to subjugate other nations. Well, if that's what the game is guiding me toward, who might argue? Now I've also got this event. Incompetent Administrator. Matters of governmental organization have never been Aelid II's strong suit. That is our current Khan, Aelid II. Aelid II, Maple Dancer. The great Maple Dancer Khans. What a good leader does to compensate for such a known weakness is to delegate, and this is exactly what our Khan has done, but the people who have handled administration in his stead have proven to be more competent than honest. The government runs well enough, but tends to slowly shift its priorities toward matters which the benefactors of these irreplaceable officials find to be of importance. With Aelid II himself unable to fully grasp the intricacies of the matters in question, the guilty parties cannot easily be seen or removed from office. For now, we'll simply have to suffer the consequences. Unfortunate that skill and honor do not always go hand in hand. So we gain half a point of corruption, which shows up here, and will provide several small disadvantages. That having been said, they are very small, nothing really to worry about. And as you can see at the top of that tooltip, the corruption will slowly decline, given how things are. Actually, mostly because we are currently rooting out corruption. Which is something that costs money, but only a tiny amount of money. Trivial, really. I could move this slider around and make it so that we're not putting any money into it at all, and this corruption will stay almost indefinitely, or I could make it a big priority, spend a larger fraction of a ducat every month, and the corruption will change a lot faster. Honestly, where it was to start with is fine. I think that's about where it was. So yes, short version, we've gained a tiny disadvantage, but thanks to money spent, it will go away. Eventually. As we can see over here, we are not the only nation on the warpath like this. Seems that it might pay to be very aggressive. Now, so long as our army is here fighting this siege, they are going to, well, so long as they're in enemy territory, they're going to suffer casualties from attrition. Currently only 1% of the army per month, which, you know, it's tiny. 90 centaurs dying every month, which will be pulled from this pool. Um, but still, it's something that I could have avoided. I don't need the entire army to be here in order to continue this siege. In fact, it seems that I only need 2 regiments. So what I'm going to do is pull most of the army away, leaving just this 1 regiment. The reason why I moved most of them instead of just 1 is that this way the horde with the general will be the smaller one. See, no general here, general here. And of course, the condottieri are going to carry most of that weight. Of course, I did that so late that it actually didn't change anything, but still. You might see me do that again in the future, and that will be why. Alright, let's subjugate some centaurs. Honestly, this is an incredible pace at which for which this game could move. I hope there's no other hidden mechanic that's waiting to stab me in the back for playing like this. But for the moment, this seems like incredible aggression is exactly what I should be doing. My force limit is now 13. Really should have taken advantage back when it was easy. Now we started a new siege, and as you can see, the army size required to maintain that siege is once again only 2. So let's let the Ruinbringers worry about that. We now have high income and complete that mission. And the next mission on this tree is to build buildings, which I believe we don't even have the tech necessary to build these. So this is a long way off and can be safely ignored. We need 1 more subjugated horde. Well, that's going to happen fairly quickly. Although, honestly, kind of seems like there's no reason not to go after the Golden Tremor while this war is still going. Hold on. This is new. The Golden Tremor, if I were to go to war with them, would kind of call in the allies the Thunderborn, which feels a little bit insulting. Oh, well. Okay, sorry. Bad instinct there on my part. I was going to object to the fact that I was earlier told that, centaurs cannot make allies, but that's not really what we're looking at here, is it? Because I've got call allies on my side as well. And all this means is that the Golden Tremor also has subjects. In this case, the Thunderborn. And given they're already at war, course, my biggest help, the Ruin Bringers, are currently tied up over here. So I would have 11,000 at my disposal, but it seems like these guys are tied up in their own wars elsewhere. Although it also seems that their wars might end at any second. This is occupied by Battle Song? Who's Battle Song? Your Battle Song. Is also occupied by Battle Song. Who are you at war with? Okay. So they're actually going after Star Riders, which means this war is not going to end anytime soon. So, yes, I feel like taking advantage is exactly the thing to do here. And now, as you can see, I am engaged in 2 wars simultaneously. I messed that up, didn't I? I did mess that up. I chose the wrong casus belli. I might be taking them as a vassal. I might have not set myself up to subjugate them, which is undesirable, given the benefits we've seen to subjugating. But, you know, it is what it is. Now I'm going to keep my entire army here for now. Just for defensive purposes, because the Thunderborn army is wandering around here. And that just feels dangerous to me. Wouldn't want to leave just a smaller army here and risk them being crushed. Of course, if they finish this too quickly, that might also pose a threat to me, and they are now at minus 7%, but the odds of them finishing their war before I get the Burning Hooves seems very slim. As I was mentioning earlier, the players' wars tend to drag on until, well, the players' sieges, rather, tend to drag on until you've sieged as much as you possibly can, whereas those percentages on the AI tends to be a little more honest. If it says 7%, there is actually a 7% chance that that cycle, which is about a month long, that cycle, the siege will actually end. There we go. I now have another subject. Which means I can complete this mission. Sizable board. And bring my general back. Ah, yes. See, that's what I was afraid of. Fortunately, Ruinbringer is here to help me too. The Siege of the Star Riders has ended. But it seems that the Thunderborn and the Golden Tremor aren't that eager to unify their armies and take the fight to me directly, so hopefully I'll just be able to take them without too much trouble. Instead, Golden Tremors are attempting to probably siege my capital. No? No. Okay, they're going for the attack on my new subject, the Burning Hooves. The thing is that since they had subjects of their own, those subjects are now also my problem. But since they don't seem to be interested in trying to start an actual fight, and their armies are divided from one another, it would be nice to try to fight that army of 6,000, as I could easily pick them off at this point. But I don't know where they're actually going, so what I'm going to do instead is send the bulk of my army over here to start the siege on Star Rider, and send this group over here to hurry the siege on Thunderborn along. As you can see, since they have 3 separate nations acting together here, my war score is currently only 33%, which I suspect means... Yes, actually at the moment, they wouldn't accept any kind of peace, let alone subjugation. Oh, well, I do at least get to pick off a small portion of the Star Rider army, which they were attempting to rebuild. Ah, a good thing to do while playing this game is just keep an eye on the flags up here. One or more of your subjects have high liberty desire. You can see it's only Runebringer that still wants to play nice. That's something I started to do earlier, is, I mentioned, using my diplomats to make them happier. And then I forgot to do that completely. Now, I could go around clicking on my subject nations and sending diplomats to improve relations. There's actually a convenient way to automate the process. This button here, production interface, lets you automate a lot of things. And they've got this list of tabs. Goodness, I suggested that I might want to make things simpler for anyone who might be new to this game, but honestly, I don't see any way this doesn't look awful. All of these are things that you can do through, well, yes, all of these are things you can do through other interfaces, but this gives you a nice central way to sort of automate or engage with them more simply. And here we have the Diplomacy tab, which allows me to just tell 2 of my diplomats, go ahead and improve relations with my own subjects. And as you can see, they are now over here being idle, and they will engage in exactly that soon. And what I mean by automation is I don't have to tell them which ones. They'll just pick some and start improving relations. And then once they've improved relations as much as they can, without me having to do a thing, they will move on to another subject. That having been said, I expressed a bit of nervousness that I might want to, there might be a mechanic that stabs me in the back from having been overly aggressive. If there is one that's going to do it, this is it. I've got 4 subject nations, and 3 of them don't really like me. One of them flat out hates me. So, that might inspire them to turn against me, especially if they think they can outnumber me. So, a lot of incentive to improve relations. So, let's turn the time back on. Unfortunately, one of the ones that's going straight to is Ruinbringer, the one that I had nothing to fear from. Honestly, it doesn't worry me that they might siege out Burning Hooves before I finish my own sieges, because I have a lot more well, I have 5 provinces under my control. So any progress they hope to make there is likely to be slow. I can probably completely finish this war before they get more than one. Wave of obscurantism. Researchers have published several works with radical theses that could prove destabilizing if widely disseminated. These centaur hordes are more complicated than I might have been led to believe. Should we opt for the easy path of obscurantism and suppress this knowledge, or would it be better not to stand in the way of progress? Honestly, knowledge is power. The very suggestion feels insulting. Of course, this comes with national unrest +2, which makes rebellion much more likely. If I were actually expanding my nation itself, this could be devastating. Or ignorance is bliss, and I could lose 10 prestige, which is another one of those things that can give me just a bunch of little minor benefits. Or I've actually got a third option. You must divert state resources to counteract this dark trend, which would only cost me 5 administrative power. As mentioned earlier, the power mostly goes to improving your technologies, but can be taken by various events like this. And this option is available because Khan Aelid II is a free thinker. Honestly, as a man of science myself, I want to say knowledge is power. And given national unrest applies only to our own nation, which has basically no rebellion chance, as it consists only of our capital province. Yes, as you can see, the unrest here is currently negative 4.2. This will have no consequences whatsoever. Knowledge is power. Oh, seems I got very, very lucky on the Siege of Star Rider, and that has completed already. Oh, and as I was looking at the possibility of peace with them, I completed that other siege as well. But it seems like they're still not interested in peace. Uh, Currently, all of the reasons for and against add up to -4, which there are a couple of ways to resolve that. Honestly, that is such a small difference. Just waiting a few months will probably fix it. But, see, I thought I was engaged in one of those wars where conquest was the primary factor, but this is saying show superiority, get bonus war score from winning battles. So, It seems that what I need to do now is fight. Ruinbringer, my one helpful subject, seems keen on running off on their own somewhere. I'm going to click this button to allow attach, and hopefully they will attach their army to mine. Doesn't look like they're that interested. Of course, another factor in getting them to improve their opinion of the idea of just surrendering and being subjugated by me is just their war enthusiasm, which you can see here. Everybody's war enthusiasm is high, but as their capitals are fully sieged out, that's actually going to drop fairly rapidly. So another reason why I could just wait this out. I would kind of like to take the fight to them, but given their numbers and mine, that's unlikely to work out well unless I can catch them separate from one another. Which it kind of looks like I might be able to. See, this army I can probably take on fairly easily, outnumbering them 9,000 units to 6,000, and on top of that, their general has only one shock, which, as mentioned earlier, that is one of the ones that applies to actual combat, whereas my general has 2 fire, 2 shock. So if I can catch them while the Golden Tremor army is away, looks like they're trying to run for it, though. If I were to take the engagement here, that would be very risky, but honestly, what I'm actually doing is hoping to intimidate them by letting just a day pass. I suspect the Thunderborn army is going to stop, thinking, oh, I can't take on the Moon Trackers. Not there. Yep, just as planned. See, now they're trying to make a run for it, but as you can see, there's this crossed sword symbol here, and that means that the fight is going to take place. Another thing that I could check is that by hovering here, I see that I will arrive in Alcarbaith on the 5th of Tierfall, and they are going to get out on the 10th. So, also, side note, this is one of the ways where their generals' war maneuver really plays to their advantage. In theory, they are faster than me, but the trip from Alcarbaith to Philostrith, it must be an intrinsically longer one, which you can see just by looking at the map why that might be. This is a very long province, so, you know, if we were to measure from center to center, whereas Taizam is very small. And once again, the battle is over very, very quickly. And as you can see, this bumped our war score up to 91%. Because of the nature of the war, the battles matter a lot. And now Golden Tremor is also willing to surrender and be subjugated. Makes me very curious how the mechanic here plays out. Like, Golden Tremor has already subjugated Thunderborn and Star Rider. Does this mean that Thunderborn and Star Rider also become mine? Or just Golden Tremor? Honestly, the possible answer to that question makes me nervous because of the subject Liberty's Desire mechanics. The more powerful they are, uh, collectively, the more Liberty Desire I would expect. That's why Cloudbane is so gung-ho about the idea they might be able to fight me back. Yep, looks like that is a factor for all of them. So taking too many hordes at once might be very dangerous. But in order to complete these missions, it says own less than 2 cities. So I just can't conquer it and continue playing the way it's nudging me towards. So let's have another save out of here. And take the plunge. See what happens when I subjugate Golden Tremor. Also, how much of your gold can I take? Really not a lot. Send demand, fingers crossed. Okay. I now have 5 subjects. And really none of them like me. Not even Ruinbringers anymore, so it's a good thing that I'm improving relations with them. I should probably take advantage of this highly increased force limit and recruit a bigger army. There are a couple of ways I could do that. As mentioned earlier, I could go through this production interface, but I could also just click this button right here, and this will automatically add newly built units to this army. That's what I'm going to do. Let's just build 2 for now. And since it's giving me the notification that I have too few rivals, let's rival Battlesong. Now, I could continue to be insanely hostile and continue on that warpath, but the risks inherent in that just seem a bit much. So another thing I could do, however, currently, most of my income comes from taxation. 2 ducats a month. And I can spend administrative power on improving my tax base, which, given I am currently losing 1.59 ducats a month, really feels like I could do with a little bit more base tax. It's a bit costly at 65 administrative power that under a lot of circumstances I would much rather spend on administrative technology. But just in order to be able to fund my army, I think I might have to. So I will spend the 65 points, and now my little one province nation is a tiny bit bigger. Um, Not nearly as much bigger as I might have hoped. Really, it told me that right here. It will increase monthly tax income by 0.08. Um, in this tooltip, it tells me that my tax income is largely coming from my subjugated friends. Um, Good on them to continue paying taxes to me when they hate me so much. Uh, Still, that hasn't gone entirely amiss. There were two nations a second ago that were at 100% liberty desire. Um, but while relative army power is one factor that goes into determining how willing they are to think, maybe being Moon Tracker's subject is not really where we need to be. Um, Another factor is relative economic power, and that relative economic power includes all this development. So honestly, I'm thinking I also want to boost up the base production by spending a little bit of diplomatic power. I could also boost military power, boost rather base manpower by spending military power, but falling behind on military technology is dangerous under any circumstances, even more so when you are in a more or less constant state of war, as we are. So, honestly, the thing to do now seems to be to cool our heels. We will improve relationship with with as many of our subject nations at once as we can. Having our diplomats all tied up like this means that we can't declare war on anyone, although we can just pull them back easily enough. But improving relations with our subjects feels much more important right now. And we can also demand tribute. The thing about that is, I think demanding tribute will probably decline their opinion of us, and that's the opposite of what we want. Honestly, all we want right now from our subjects is their love. Or fear, or something. And already Runebringer and Golden Tremor have improved their mood to something much more cooperative. Another thing worth noting is that a lot of the reasons that these various nations hate us will tick down over time. Cloudbane is very angry that we force vassalize them, but on the first month of every year, Aston Mark, the symbolic January, uh, the reasons why they hate us will tick down a little bit. So that will also help us out with improving their attitude toward us. Although it looks like it's going to be a long time before Cloudbane has anything but contempt for us. Honestly, kind of makes me want to not let this be automated. Because Golden Tremor and Ruinbringer, their opinion of us is fine. So let's actually pull these diplomats off of automation. And as you can see, it's only going to take a few days for them to come back. So if I felt the need to declare war, I could certainly do so easily enough. And instead reassign these diplomats to more troublesome subjects, which is to say Cloudbane and Burning Hooves. Cloudbane, improve relations. Burning Hooves, improve relations. Another side note, since I have developed the province of Alcarbaith, if I were to migrate now, I would lose the benefit of that. Although it's interesting, whereas I'm pretty sure every province around here was at 3 development when we started, it looks like somebody improved the base tax of Jalagub. So I could move to Jalagub, and it wouldn't cost me as much as if I were to move to, say, Illustrith. Although, another thing is worth noting is that every province, every terrain type, has its own relationship with development cost and steppes, which both of these provinces are, cost 20% extra, whereas Jalagub is desert, which costs 50% extra. I don't see why I would want to go out there. For that matter, okay, I was wondering if it was just the provinces on the river that were steppes, but no, this is steppes as well. That's steppes. Only the ones clear out here that are desert. More steppes. All right. Let's let some time run and make my subjects a little bit more happy with me. Interestingly, I am now making money again. I think I might have only been losing money because I was reinforcing. Reinforcing, unsurprisingly, costs money. So all of that funding I'm receiving from my subjects is actually more than enough to support my army. And that tells me I should make the army a little bigger. As you might also have noticed that every time I recruit some more army, my manpower goes down. Still, they're more useful to me like this. Better in my army than waiting. Now, so far, I've only been going to war with nations with whom I share a border, but you might have noticed that these centaurs certainly can cross unoccupied provinces. That's not something unique to the centaurs, didn't mean to imply that, but yes, they can cross unoccupied provinces. So I could go to war with unconnected nations like Skyblot. It would just be slightly less convenient, as I'd have to contend with any natives, although their armies are tiny. Or maybe they'll just come to me. But as I was saying, you can see the natives here, there are just 100 of them. If I were to enter this province, there is a reasonable chance, I don't know what the chance is, but a pretty good chance that a native army would rise up against me, but that army would only consist of 100 centaurs against the 12,000 centaurs that is my own army. The battle would be over immediately. So let's sit back and let Liberty Desire decline a bit more. Of course, it will also decline as my army becomes bigger. Although, watching it, it appears that their Liberty Desire is actually increasing slightly. That's probably because they are also building armies. Makes me a teensy bit nervous. Makes me wonder how exactly this is all supposed to work, although, having completed the next soldier in my own army, their Liberty Desire went back down again. But, yes. I assume the game developers created this scenario with a plan, but I'm not that clear on what the plan is exactly. Like, should I just be continuing to be as aggressive as possible non-stop? As things stand, I do have two loyal subjects who will have my back in most fights. So, it seems like continuing as I have been so far is an option. Just looking at the bottom of this left path on the mission tree, unite home region. All provinces in West Forbidden Plains region is owned by Moon Tracker. Presumably being my subject counts for that. I hope it counts for that. Pretty sure it counts for that in when missions are phrased that way in the normal game. Honestly, looking at the information presented to me, it kind of feels like I've got no choice but to cry Leroy Jenkins and keep going. Skyblot is a subjugated horde of 1,000 voices. If I were to go to war with them, it looks like I would automatically be at war with 1,000 voices, as well as Serpent Shadow and Lake Foe. So it would be my 6 against their 4. Although, as previously mentioned, I can really only count on 2 of them. But my own army has gotten pretty big. Oh, and Golden Tremor now seems keen on... Well, I hope they're taking advantage of that allow attach. I don't know for sure. Well, as the saying goes, time's up, let's do this. Leroy Jenkins. Call my diplomat back. Wait a day for it to return. And let's go to war with... Well, I think the war leader will actually be Thousand Voices. And fortunately, we are going to be able to annihilate Skyblot's army immediately. And once again, I was careless about the war goal. Oh, looks like another army showed up almost immediately. Okay, if I were to sue for peace, okay. Yes, I made a mistake. I cannot make them a subject with this casus belli. In my haste there, I made a mistake. I really don't want to vassalize them. Cloudbane is my vassal, and that's just no good for me at all. Um, I could white peace, thus avoiding the point of having gone to war in the first place. Not like I can get a lot of gold off of them. I'm kind of tempted to just load the last autosave. It'll set me back the better part of a year, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, all I did with that year was improve relations anyway. So, you know, given the real mistake was to just let myself go to war for the wrong reason. Let's go with loading the autosave, which would waste the least amount of time. It will waste less time than letting this war play out. Sorry about that. So, yes, rebuild. Same army I had been building before. Turn off allow attach. I really don't need it. And improve relations. And there's no reason we should be going speed 3 at this point. Let's speed it up to speed 4. Okay. Just took a moment for my computer to catch up. You see that fight going on right there? Um, that was kind of silly. The people of Jelagub just managed to beat the crap out of one of my subjects. Which kind of flies in the face of what I was suggesting about how this worked. I thought they could only create a 10th of a regiment, but it looks an awful lot like they created a whole one. Okay, something I haven't touched upon so far is national decisions available. Currently, the national decisions available are change racial military, which I am pretty sure would require me to have a race other than centaurs available, and even if I did, These centaurs are powerful and handy, and I don't think I would want to. Another is change racial tolerance and population control. And here we can see a list of all races in this game. Any race inside my nation other than centaurs, it seems, would be oppressed. However, I'm pretty sure there aren't any. So there's nothing I really need to do about that. Now here's something interesting. Settle horde. And now we have caught back up in time with more or less when we were before I loaded. Settle horde. I have not met one of the requirements here. One of the following must be true. The year is at least 1475, which is still a good 26 years off. Or own at least 2 cities. That thing I keep avoiding because of the mission tree. And what would that do for me? Enact Settled Centaur Horde Tier 1 Government Reform. Gives the following effects. Government Mechanics enables Tribal Federation ability. Can raise provinces, is Nomad. Prohibits switching government type. This would give me colonists, which would allow me to start settling these random unoccupied lands. That would be kind of cool. More national manpower, more force limit. Horde Unity plus 0.5, but I'm pretty sure that would be replacing... Well, that's the thing now, isn't it? What would that replace? Might replace the Reform Centaur Horde, in which case being settled would actually be better. Movement speed plus 20%. Really feeling a little bit weird about that. Okay. So here are the benefits of being a Centaur Horde as it is, which already comes with a plus 20% movement speed. It also comes with a minus 75% reform progress growth, which is this bar right here, which would allow me to become, in a manner of speaking, a better horde. Tier 2, cultural values would allow me to pick one of these 2 benefits right here. Now, another thing is this orange decision really catching my attention. The Great Khan. Requirements. The year is at least 1500. So that's actually a long ways off yet. And one of the following must be true. Total development at least 300. Oh boy, currently 5. Yeah, that doesn't seem especially achievable. Or all the following. Win 150 battles, currently 4. Total development is not 200. Or total development at least 200 and win 35 wars. So, becoming the Great Khan feels like the thing to do, but all versions of it requires total development of at least 200. But everything so far has been discouraging me from trying to get that by conquering other Centaur nations. But trying to get it by developing just this single province, well, that would be absurd. Uh, am I meant to do it by conquering? They talked about the Lakes nations, but honestly, this all appears to be connected to the ocean. So, there is this Lake Federation, technology group Triunic, which appears to be a variation of human. They do have allies, but they are still many separate small nations. Just for the sake of answering questions, what if I were to try to declare war? Okay. If I were to try to declare war on this nation specifically, it would only call in their ally. Of course, they are allowed to have allies. They are not centaurs with prohibition against such. So, if I were to conquer enough centaur hordes, I could bring the weight of them down collectively and maybe just pick off two little nations at once. Conveniently, the allied ones are these two over here to the west, which are both basically accessible to me. One of them entirely by land connection. This one over here, this province, this is all a single province with a straight crossing that the centaurs could cross over through. Admittedly, if there's an army sitting right here, when the straight crossing is completed, the centaurs will be fighting at a large disadvantage. Also worth noting that their tech level is already 3 compared to my 2. I suspect, yes, indeed, this game has a mechanic called institutions, and if there are institutions on the map and your nation doesn't have them, you get a penalty, a percent increase to the cost of gaining new technologies. And the first institution is feudalism. It's currently the only institution. The Renaissance has not yet spawned, although it won't be long now. But feudalism is currently the only institution on the map, and it is imposing a 50% increase to the cost of picking up new technologies for anyone who doesn't have feudalism, like us. The lake people do not have this problem, so they can gain technology more cheaply and easily than we can, which is going to be a bit of a hurdle to the prospect of ever going to war with them. Although I believe our own centaurs being having 6 pips here are actually more powerful than any early tech human unit. Although I don't have any convenient way to verify this. It just 6 pips feels high to me. Means that we are going to do a lot of extra damage in the shock phase of combat. And also, we're decent when it comes to morale, too. We're going to deal a lot of shock damage and receive a lot less damage during the shock phase, which is to say, we're going to inflict more casualties and receive fewer casualties. That's what I really should have been saying. Obviously, this balances out so long as the centaurs are fighting each other, but it might give us that tiny little edge we need in order to theoretically fight the humans eventually. But before that's even remotely possible, more unification is probably required. So, with that having been observed, let's go through with what our plan was. Oh. Oh. Since I guess since we aren't bordering them, Centaur subjugation is now the only casus belli. I can't declare war because I have no diplomats to send. They are preoccupied at the moment, so let's pull them back. Of course, another handy little tooltip is that down here at the bottom it actually shows that this side of the war has 31,000 troops. This side has 29,000. So, despite the fact that we are 6 and they are 4, we don't actually outnumber them by that much. Excuse me a moment. Let's take a drink. And of course, there are questions that raises, very important questions about how much they are willing to commit to fighting me. Since, as we've established, so far only one of my subjects has ever been willing to contribute troops to my fights, although hopefully now Golden Tremor will be happy to add to that. So presumably they are in a similar situation where not all of them are willing to go to war. And then there's the secondary factor that being the one declaring the war, hopefully I'll be able to catch them off guard. Slow time back down. See, I'll be able to destroy these 2,000 troops in Skyblot before ever needing to worry about how much anyone else is actually willing to contribute. Which admittedly doesn't make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, with the numbers being 31 to 29. But that's why I say it, because I am a perpetually terrified conqueror. So, let's go to war. Leroy Jenkins. Completely stack wipe. Ah, yes. This is exactly what I was afraid of. The Thousand Voices, the leader of this set, is coming after me with 15,000 centaurs. And I don't really have any chance of running. That's Burning Hooves there that is currently walking away from the fight. Wasn't really expecting them to help anyway, but if Ruinbringer and Golden Tremor could come this way, honestly, they'd probably still arrive too late. This might be one of those times where I have to be a horrible person and save scum. I'd really rather avoid that if I could, but even their general is noticeably better than mine. I am probably going to get my butt kicked here, and when I do, that will kind of ruin everything. But no sense in surrendering before the battle's even been fought. Let's see what happens. Ah, Skyblot had more of an army hidden back there. And as anticipated, I am getting clobbered. This is the mechanic that I mentioned earlier. I cannot retreat until the 31st, so 3 more days. If the way this battle is going is any clue, though, my army's not going to last that long, so the way I just stack wiped those 2,000 troops a second ago, my entire army of 13,000 centaurs is probably about to be stack wiped. And then I will have no army at all, and not nearly enough money to rebuild it. This could probably go disastrously for me. Not to mention the fact that having a much smaller army all of a sudden means that my subjects, since that was always a factor in their liberty desire is probably going to skyrocket. And while they weren't helping me a minute ago anyway, their incentive to do so will suddenly be cratered. So, yep, like I said, I have been stack wiped. That didn't have as disastrous an effect on their liberty desire as I thought it might. But the fact remains that this is a war I really should not have taken. So, though it be shameful, ah well. It's a modded game. There's much that I don't understand and have yet to learn. Can't be too afraid of making a mistake. Alright, so since going after 1,000 voices seems like it's almost certainly a bad idea, and by extension, any of their subjects. Well, I say that, but I do have another option. I could declare war on 1,000 voices, and instead of moving my army in to Skyblot, I could withdraw. Then, so long as I'm sharing a tile with Warsight's army, that brings the size of my army up to 17,000, and means that any fight that we engage in will be led by their general, which is actually about as powerful as 1,000 Voices general. On the other hand, I could just look for weaker targets, softer targets. Targets I can take without it costing me dearly. Honestly, both of those targets look fine. And honestly, I'm kind of feeling Sunrider by virtue of it being slightly closer. As you can see here, Sunrider rule over Glorious Charge and Blazing Sky. But their armies collectively add up to 7,000, so nothing my Moon Tracker army can't take on its own. Slow time back down to 3, because while 4 was nice for letting some time go by a little bit faster, going to war at speed 4, well, normally going to war at speed 4 makes me nervous because there's, dangerous enemies. But that's not what we're looking at here, so let's keep going at speed 4 and let things go by quickly. And let's take Sunrider. Double check we're not doing something stupid. Make sure Casus Belli is Centaur Subjugation. Let's go. Of course, ideally leading with clobbering an enemy army. And since there are apparently 6,000 around somewhere, and I don't know where, oh. Well. The Golden Tremors have found 2,000 of them for me. Where? Oh, wow. One of my enemies, Blazing Sky, is way over here. So, what I'm going to do is send the smaller half of my army way over there, as I have reason to believe there aren't actually that many of them. Although Ruinbringer is actually stepping up to take that. So let's reunite my army. Let Ruinbringer take care of that. Of course, City Razor had to move and inconvenience me. Let's reunite my army and bring them over here, while my subjects take care of these two sieges. Oh, another neat thing is, you may have noticed, the land was mostly white a second ago. Now it's turning green. This game does have seasons, and when it's winter, the supply limit of provinces does go down, which can lead to starvation. Seems like a good opportunity to explain what I was talking about regarding flanking range. You can see how the battle is playing out here on this little screen to the left. It includes a random element, random number from 0 to 9, and as you can see, I rolled a 0, they rolled a 5, so things are going a little bit better for them, aside from the fact that they are horribly outnumbered. And here you can see all of my units, and here you can see all of their units. Units can always attack whoever's directly across from them, but there's also a flanking range, which allows units to attack diagonally here. And this is an intrinsic benefit of cavalry. But since my general picked up that ability that improves their flanking range, I can actually have a greater number of my own forces attacking a smaller force all at once, thus allowing me to crush smaller forces with minimal losses. And now let's split the army in half and leave a smaller force behind to perform the siege, just so that, as you can see, this force is suffering 2% attrition, this force is suffering 0 attrition, so it's better to leave a smaller force inside the enemy land if you can. Another reason for this is that one of the random events that can happen while you are performing a siege is a disease outbreak, although the disease outbreak chance just vanished as we have progressed far enough through the siege to avoid it, but there was a small chance of disease outbreak, and when that happens, disease kills off a portion of your forces, and I am not sure what that portion is. It is percentage based, something like 5% or 10% or something. So if there are only 3,500 troops performing the siege, the consequences of losing 5% of it is much lighter than if you had your full force committed. Production research flawed. The new techniques in our production are rumored to be flawed, and several leading nobles argue that we should discard them and go back to the old and tried methods instead. I can either say they must be right and lose 50 administrative power, or I could ignore them and lose 10 prestige. Well, honestly, prestige is much easier to come by, and, in my opinion, much less valuable. Really, the thing that prestige is most important for most of the time is that improve relations adjustment. It determines how quickly I can improve relations, as I'm doing with a couple of my subjects, and also how quickly negative factors fade, which honestly, both of those are pretty important to me right now. Oof. And the prospect of ever actually teching up is a distant one, to say the least. So, while under most circumstances, I would say that prestige is less valuable, under the circumstances, I am willing to surrender some administrative power. It's worth mentioning at this point where the power comes from. Uh, you get 3 for each type automatically every month. Then you get some amount for the skills of your leader, and it turns out my leader's skills are awful. 002. I would say something more like 222 would be acceptable, and I think something like 333, or any way of this adding up to 9 would be more like what one would expect to be average. Um, Aelid Maple Dancer, you are honestly kind of a terrible ruler. Um, which makes me think another thing I can do is make my ruler my general. It's something I'm normally reluctant to do because it just clicking this button makes it slightly more likely any given month that your ruler will die. And also, then if you actually assign them to your army and use them in combat, that can also get them killed. But if my ruler is so terrible at ruling, maybe he's kind of good at leading combat. And then, even if I do get him killed, no major loss, you know? Another thing you can do to get your monthly power income to increase is hire advisors. But advisors cost a minimum of 1 ducat a month. And that's kind of more than I can afford. We've been slowly bleeding money this whole time. Although getting some back just by looting anytime your troops are sieging a province, they will also be looting that province. So we've been getting a little bit of supplementary money through that. But yes, advisors, not really something we could afford. If we had the spare money, I feel that we would be much better off spending that on a bigger army. Now, another thing that one can do in Europa Universalis, uh, when you sue for peace, you can actually peace out secondary members of the opposing force separately. But it doesn't appear that I can utilize this to uh, force Blazing Sky to be my subject. Ah, and since this is a subject relationship, they actually can't piece out of this either. Okay. So, separate piece, just straight up not an option. It's more of a thing one does when dealing with an alliance. So, let's pull my army out of there, reunite them, so that they are, you know, a nice safe block, and let's make the Sun Riders my subjects. And at that, we are now a vast horde. Something I actually hadn't been thinking about is that this gives a nice reduction in land maintenance modifier, which will help me support a bigger army, which will help me keep these subjects intimidated. The fact that it comes with a substantial manpower supplement, also very helpful. Let's bring the forces back home. Although, okay, you're already at war. Not just at war, but at present getting your butts kicked. Okay, so this is another mechanic that I hadn't needed to address before now. When you make peace, if you are in enemy land, your units will become exiled, and then they cannot fight. We were in unsettled land, which, you know, land occupied by centaurs who aren't part of a centaur horde. Uh, which honestly I didn't know what the mechanic for that would be. So long as they are exiled, they can pass through anywhere, not just places we have permission to be. But they cannot fight until they return to homeland, or subjects' land should also count. I didn't realize that that's how it worked when you were in unsettled land. This is also one of my subjects, and as you can see, I have become unexiled, which seems to me to mean that I ought to turn around and go straight into the next war. Looks like I actually had a pretty big penalty to their Liberty Desire while my forces were black flagged. It could be that while they were black flagged, I counted as having 0 army power, and now that they're back, I actually have 4 nations that are happy with me. This is working out better than I anticipated. Once again. So, yes, it appears that the prudent thing to do is... Well, the prudent thing to do is make sure you're taking on the right kind of war. It looks like I did, because the only one available is, if they're not neighboring me, the only one available is the one that I want. Fortunately, accidentally saving my own bacon. I think I'm going to take advantage of, let's see how good of a general my Khan is. He is slightly better at fighting, but not sieging. And since I have apparently 4 cooperative... Oh. Oh no, this is interesting. Someone has taken the other route and started expanding. Okay, that's Great Rally's army, which is the place that I'm already actively attacking. I will probably outpace them with this siege. Ah, they're actually giving up on that siege. And these other 2 have already fallen in a different war. That might be teensy bit inconvenient. I can only siege out 1 province. That in and of itself does not give me much war score and makes ending the war a bit more difficult. Although, as previously established, actually fighting the enemy also plays a big part. And, my general died. Well, let's assign our Khan and go looking for the enemy. If I can find them, I'm pretty sure I can take them fairly easily. I just have to find them. It's interesting that I was able to walk into this Battle Song land a second ago, presumably because Great Rally had asked them for permission. Unfortunately, Great Rally's army could be hiding anywhere, really. waiting it out might actually be our best option, because fortunately, we are only at minus 14 reasons for now. But yeah, Great Rowley's army could be clear out here, and I'd have no way of knowing. Oh, nice forests. Might be good to settle. Okay. No idea where they're hiding. So, unfortunately, we may have no better option than to... Oh, just accidentally picked off a native group there. It seems we might have no better option than to simply wait for their war enthusiasm to fade. Their war exhaustion plays a big factor into that, and their war exhaustion should go up quickly because they are fully sieged out. Although it also went down just now. It's something you can pay down with admin power. Honestly got me thinking that while we're waiting for that, we might as well go to war with someone else. We currently have a truce with Glorious Charge because we went to war with them when acquiring Sunrider, I think. Same is also true for Star Rider. Golden Tremor is ours. What about Battle Song? The fact that they are kind of enormous is a little bit intimidating. Are you even centaurs? Yes, you are. And they do have 30,000 troops, so that might be setting myself up for trouble, just like when I thought to try to go south. How about Crashing Wave? You are subjugated by Battle Song. 100 Hooves. You have your own subjects. You have 24,000 troops. So that's probably distributed in such a way that it should be manageable. Let's pick up slightly larger army. Let ourselves reinforce a tiny bit. Let's do another paranoia save. And let's see what happens when we fight. Oh wait, I can see 100 Hughes' army. It's right there. And it is pretty much the same size as mine. Going after them under the circumstances might be disastrous. Let's offer allow attach and see if I can get any of my subjects to come. Undertubes is also picking up reinforcements of their own. But I can support a larger army than I am right now. Oh, look at that. I've got an heir. Don't know where I got a queen, but I got a queen somewhere. And my heir is much more impressive looking than the Khan, although currently they are only a baby. Oh, and would you look at that? My new troops are coming in from Golden Tremor. Wow, the war exhaustion on Great Rally is really not accumulating all that fast. Should have checked what 100 Who's general looked like while I could still see them. Well, though it will cause me to start losing money, I will build a bit more. Because if I simply can overwhelm 100 hooves with numbers, I will probably still lose some of my troops in the process. Oh, wait. I'm already at... Oh. I see what happened. Okay. So, the one who was at war with these other nations, causing me such inconvenience, the one at war with the same groups as I was 100 hooves. So now that they've taken Great Rally, they've taken over the war. Now I'm at war with 100 hooves. Their army is the same size as mine. Their general is slightly better. So let's recruit. Oh, wait. Wait, no, they're not. I was looking at the wrong general. Okay. My general is a 3-1. Their general is a 0-2. My general is a bit better. Furthermore, if I were to engage them here, Ruinbringer might turn around to help. As it stands, it seems like they're after Ruinbringer anyway, and if I allowed them to, they would crush Ruinbringer, although they're likely to keep running. Their ability to catch Ruinbringer is limited, but still. They're still on Tech 2. This should be a basically fair fight, a small bit in my favor. Probably shouldn't need the save. Um, I have no idea what just happened. Does he have some general characteristic? Okay, their leader is a glory seeker and cruel. I don't know what either of those do, if they are in fact beneficial in combat at all. I had another general, but does me no good. But one thing's for certain, I do not want to take that fight. He crushed me handily. Of course, it might have just been a difference in roles. It's just kind of amazing that fights move quite so quickly in this. So, thing for me to do now seems to be to relax and oh, wait, I'm at war with them. Why can't I go there? Okay, there we go. Um, yes, let Ruinbringers run. Sunriders, are you finally attaching to come to my aid? Sunriders are one of the ones with a more helpful attitude. You're going to... Okay. Okay, 100 Hooves is running. I don't want them to unite with the rest of this army. That could be its own kind of disaster. And Sunrider has committed to helping me out. Finally. And Ruinbringer is also attaching to me. So, finally, we can perhaps demonstrate the true power of having an alliance. Or they will run off over there. Okay. Come with me. See, my army can now reinforce to 16,000, which means that with the Ruinbringers, that's 20,000. And superior numbers wins the day. Thank you. Oh my goodness, but that hurt. Okay. Let's remove the allow attach tag. I don't have a good general for sieging, but this war is essentially won. Holy crap, ouch, though. Oh, having a bit of trouble with this siege. Good on the Golden Tremors, tracking down the newly rebuilt tiny 100 Hooves armies, picking them off before they have a chance to build up into anything threatening. And let's pick up the speed. let this war end quickly. Speaking of which, for the same reasons mentioned earlier, let's remove most of... Actually, no reason to do this in a complicated way. Since the general has no siege pips. Let my one regiment rather, remain there as a placeholder, while the Ruinbringers deal with the siege. Wave of obscurantism. Once again, knowledge is power. Part of the problem here is that, oh. Huh. They managed to rebuild an army of 3,000, so let's deal with that. But yes, part of the problem up here with this siege is that they actually have ocean access. Oh good, we're going to catch up to Bloodbringers. See, so long as a nation has access to the ocean, and it is not blockaded, this puts a penalty on the siege. It's not insurmountable. We'll conquer them eventually. It'll just take a little longer. Also, if this province is ever fully empty, that will reset the progress, and we don't want that. And that would be a risk if my Moon Tracker regiment were to leave. As then the Ruinbringers, being an AI, could do something stupid like abandon the siege that they really don't need to abandon. More troops keep popping up. It looks like we're sieging all of their subjects. I'm not sure where these are coming from. Pretty sure you shouldn't be able to... Look, one just popped up here in City Razor. Okay, it's because it's still technically the war with Great Rally, I guess? They weren't able to... I figured we'd be at war with 100 Hooves, like it shows right here. We're at war with 100 Hooves. Can I make separate peace with Great Rally? A vassal or lesser partner of a union cannot sign a peace treaty. Okay. And this will have me subjugating 100 Hooves. I'll take it. 100 Hooves is clearly the bigger threat regardless. It's not what I was aiming for, but I'm not going to complain. Alright, who can I go for now? Because now I am Moon Tracker. Truce until 61. They have infantry somehow. Battle Song must have gotten some ogres under their sway. Also, it appears that my subjects, the Ruinbringers, are about to be completely surrounded by Battle Song. White Shadow, you're looking awfully lonely over there. No, you're subjugated by Battle Song. We have a truce until 1461. Golden Tremor is already ours. Crashing Wave. Subjugated by Battle Song. Glorious Charge. We have a truce until 1457. I suspect the truce here is also till 1461. Since it is the... Oh. Hold on. Okay, 1458 for that one. How about you? 1461. So... for everywhere west of here, everything is divided between Moon Tracker and Battle Song, or someplace that we have a truce with. Which means I think we want to go looking further east. On the other hand, how do we compare to these guys down here now? They were kind of scary before, but we have actually helpful allies now. Meanwhile, who's the big dog over here? You're subjugated by Green Flame. You have 3 subjects. This is Green Flame. You're currently being besieged. You're independent, Red Stallion. So it would appear that over to the east we have 2 powers presently at war with one another. Black Charge and Green Flame. And a lot of reason to try to intervene. What if we were to... Problem, of course, is that Black Charge is at present already being besieged. The same reason as the wars that we went through a minute ago, I might prefer to hold off and let them settle that war before engaging in anything myself. Of course, if I were to go to war, it would be against 21,000 here. Oh, wow. Um, really seems like, Green Flame doesn't actually stand a chance. Honestly, I feel like this calls for taking my time, planning, and probably even taking a break. This stream has gone on for quite some time, perhaps my longest yet. So, I think I'm going to call it here. As usual, I have been Kotzen Gates, and this is EU4 Anbennar mod. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a very pleasant night.